This is the beginning of the game. You police guys stop me if you can. I desperately want to see people die. It is a thrill for me to commit murder. A bloody judgment is needed for my years of great bitterness. Japan, the land of the rising sun, has long been revered for its unique blend of ancient traditions and cutting-edge technology. From the neon-lit streets of Tokyo to the serene temples of Kyoto, the country presents a facade of harmony and order that has made it one of the safest nations in the world. Crime rates are exceptionally low, and the sight of young children navigating bustling city streets alone is commonplace, a testament to the trust society places in its collective safety. But beneath this veneer of tranquility, a darkness lurks. For all its modern advancements and social cohesion, Japan, like any nation, is not immune to the shadows that dwell in the human heart. And in 1997, in the port city of Kobe, those shadows emerged in a form so shocking, so utterly incomprehensible, that it would forever change the nation's perception of itself. The morning of May 27, 1997, dawned like any other in Kobe. The city, still recovering from a devastating earthquake 2 years prior, was slowly returning to its routine. At Tainohata Elementary School, a janitor arrived early, as he did every day, to prepare the grounds for the arrival of students and teachers. But as he approached the school gates, an inexplicable sense of dread washed over him. His eyes fell upon small, dark objects strewn across the ground near the entrance. Drawing closer, his stomach churned as he realized they were the mutilated remains of cats. Forcing himself to continue forward, he froze in his tracks at the base of the main gate. There, propped up like a macabre trophy, was the severed head of a young boy. The janitor's anguished cry pierced the early morning stillness, shattering the facade of safety that had cloaked this quiet community. As police sirens wailed in the distance, word spread like wildfire the monster who had been lurking in the shadows had finally revealed himself in the most horrifying way imaginable. The head was quickly identified as that of 11th-year-old June Hayes, who had gone missing just 3 days earlier. His eyes had been gouged out, leaving empty sockets that seemed to stare accusingly at a world that had failed to protect him. Most disturbingly, his mouth had been sliced open from ear to ear in a grotesque parody of a smile. Tucked inside was a blood-stained note, its message chilling in its casual brutality. The note was signed Sito Sakakibara, a pseudonym created using kanji characters meaning wine devil. Rose holy and fighting, it was clear that this killer wasn't just content with taking lives. He wanted to toy with the entire city, to revel in the fear and chaos he was creating. As detectives swarmed the scene, piecing together the grisly puzzle, residents of Kobe found themselves trapped in a waking nightmare. Parents clutched their children close, scanning faces on the street for any sign of the monster who walked among them. Because make no mistake, this was no ordinary criminal. The level of depravity on display spoke of a mind utterly divorced from human empathy or morality. The discovery of June's headless body later that day only deepened the horror. Hidden on a nearby hill known as Reservoir Mountain, the corpse bore evidence of unimaginable torment. Forensic analysis revealed that the boy had been strangled with a cord before his head was sawed off with agonizing slowness. But the killer's savage fury hadn't ended there. He had continued to mutilate the body even after death. As the investigation unfolded, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. This wasn't the first time the shadowy figure now known as Sito Sakakibara had struck. In the months leading up to June's murder, a series of brutal attacks on young girls had terrorized the city. On February 10th, 2 12-year-old girls walking home from school had been savagely beaten with a hammer. Miraculously, both survived, though one suffered severe head trauma. Just over a month later, on March 16th, another pair of attacks sent shockwaves through Kobe. 10-year-old Ayaka Yamashita was lured to a secluded area by a stranger asking for directions. As she turned to point the way, she was struck in the head with a heavy hammer. Within minutes, the same assailant stabbed 9-year-old Kazu Mishima in the stomach as she walked through a nearby park. Ayaka would succumb to her injuries a week later, becoming the first fatality in this reign of terror. Kazu, though gravely wounded, managed to survive and provide a description of her attacker, a young man in a school uniform. It was a detail that would prove crucial as the investigation progressed. But for now, the police found themselves chasing shadows. With each attack, the perpetrator left behind mutilated animal carcasses, a calling card that spoke to a deeply disturbed mind. A decapitated pigeon here, a mangled cat there. It was as if he was taunting them, daring the authorities to catch him before he could strike again. The discovery of June's head and the taunting letter thrust the case into the national spotlight. As media descended on Kobe, the killer reveled in the attention. On June 6th, he sent another letter to a local newspaper, this time taking credit for June's murder and criticizing the Japanese education system. He claimed it had turned him into an invisible person, fueling his rage and desire for vengeance. The city held its breath, waiting for the next shoe to drop. But even as the investigation intensified, no one could have predicted the shocking twist that was about to upend everything they thought they knew about the case. On June 28th, just over a month after June's head was found at the school gates, police announced they had a suspect in custody. The news sent a shockwave through Kobe, not because a killer had been caught, but because of who that killer turned out to be. The person responsible for this reign of terror, this string of brutal attacks that had brought a city to its knees, was a 14-year-old boy. Due to strict Japanese privacy laws protecting minors, the suspect's name was withheld from the public. He became known simply as Boy, but as details of his confession emerged, the horror of what had transpired began to take shape in sickening clarity. Boy A, whose real name would later be revealed as Shinichiro Azuma, described in chilling detail how he had lured June Hayes to his death. On that fateful Saturday, May 24th, he approached the younger boy with the promise of showing him a giant turtle living near the reservoir. Together, they climbed the path up the mountain. Once they reached a secluded spot, Azuma struck. He attempted to strangle Jun with a shoelace, but the boy fought back fiercely. Enraged by this resistance, Azuma overpowered his victim, choking the life from him with terrifying determination. But the nightmare was far from over. The next day, Azuma returned to the scene with a handsaw and a black garbage bag. In a grotesque ritual that defies comprehension, he severed Jun's head from his body. He then proceeded to mutilate the corpse further, driven by impulses too dark to fathom. Most disturbingly, Azuma admitted to drinking some of Jun's blood. He explained this act as an attempt to purify his own blood, which he believed to be dirty. The removal of Jun's eyes was similarly steeped in twisted symbolism. Azuma claimed he was extracting the boy's soul. The head was taken home, a macabre trophy that would soon become the centerpiece of Azuma's most brazen act. In the early hours of May 27th, he placed it at the gates of his own elementary school. It was both a taunt to investigators and an act of revenge against an education system he blamed for destroying his spirit. As the interrogation continued, Azuma's confessions expanded to include the earlier attacks on schoolgirls. He described the assault on Ayaka Yamashita with particular vividness, writing in his diary, "Today I carried out a sacred experiment to confirm how fragile human beings are. I brought the hammer down when the girl turned her face toward me. I think I hit her a few times, but I was too excited to remember." The portrait that emerged of Shinichiro Azuma was one of a deeply troubled young man, consumed by rage and alienation. From an early age, he had shown signs of severe psychological disturbance. He tortured and killed small animals, finding a perverse satisfaction in their suffering. Classmates reported that he would often sit motionless for long periods, staring into space as if lost in his own world. Azuma's family life, while outwardly normal, was marked by intense pressure and emotional distance. As the eldest of 3 children, he bore the brunt of his parents' expectations. His mother, in particular, demanded perfect grades and pushed him relentlessly. When school counselors suggested that Azuma might have mental health issues requiring special attention, she dismissed their concerns, believing that strict discipline was the answer. The loss of his grandmother, whom Azuma described as the only person who truly loved him, seems to have been a turning point. In the wake of her death, his fascination with death and violence intensified. He began to retreat further into a fantasy world, developing an imaginary deity he called Bamoidokin, who he believed protected and guided him. As disturbing as these revelations were, some questioned whether Azuma was truly responsible for all the crimes attributed to him. His lawyers pointed out discrepancies between the physical evidence and his confession. The author of the letter sent to the media appeared to be left-handed, while Azuma was right-handed. Additionally, the sophisticated language and complex kanji used in the letters seemed beyond the capabilities of a student who struggled academically. These doubts led Azuma's own mother to visit him in detention, asking point-blank if he had really committed the crimes. Without hesitation, he confirmed that he had. Whether this was a true admission of guilt or the product of a disturbed mind desperate for attention remains a subject of debate to this day. Regardless of any lingering questions, Azuma was found guilty and sentenced to a juvenile correctional facility. Under Japanese law at the time, offenders under 16 could not be tried as adults, no matter how heinous their crimes. This fact would soon lead to significant changes in the country's legal system. On March 11, 2004, less than 7 years after his arrest, a 21-year-old Shinichiro Azuma walked free. His release was met with a mixture of outrage and fear from a public that had never forgotten the terror he had inflicted on Kobe. Many felt that justice had not been served, that the punishment in no way fit the horrific nature of his crimes. Azuma wasted no time in capitalizing on his notoriety. In 2015, he published a book titled Zeka, or Absolute Evil, detailing his crimes in vivid and unapologetic prose. Despite widespread condemnation and attempts to block its release, the book became a bestseller, making Azuma a wealthy man. In a move that many saw as the ultimate insult to his victims' families, Azuma sent them personal letters of apology along with copies of his book. It was a gesture that seemed more calculated to provoke than to seek genuine forgiveness. The case of the Kobe child murders remains one of the most infamous crimes in modern Japanese history. It shattered the nation's sense of safety and forced a reckoning with the dark undercurrents lurking beneath the surface of even the most orderly society. The impact of Azuma's crimes extended far beyond the immediate victims and their families. It led to significant changes in Japan's juvenile justice system, with the minimum age for criminal punishment being lowered from 16 to 14. Schools implemented new security measures, and parents became hyper-vigilant about their children's safety. As the years have passed, Shinichiro Azuma has faded from the public eye. His exact whereabouts are unknown, though rumors persist that he married one of his admirers and even has a child of his own. The thought that he walks free, potentially living a normal life, is a source of ongoing anguish for many. The scars left by the Kobe child murders run deep, a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones we least expect. In a society known for its low crime rates and social harmony, the case stands as a stark warning that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places.